Welcome back, everybody, to another Deep Dives. We're going to be looking at something pretty interesting today, a YouTube video from Dr. Haifaa Younis from the Jannah Institute. And she talks about how we can use criticism to better ourselves. And I think this is something that all of us struggle with and can definitely learn from.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how she frames it as an opportunity for growth rather than, something to be feared or dismissed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
She talks about, the story of the man who traveled a long distance to warn his people only to be mocked and killed. And it makes you really think, like, how we often react to criticism, defensively, even if that person's intention, might be good.
Exactly. It's like we automatically put up that wall.
Right.
And we don't consider maybe what the content of that criticism is. And like Dr. Younis highlights in the story, sometimes the people that are, giving us the most valuable insights are the ones that challenge our thinking, even if their approach isn't perfect.
Right. And it makes me think about all those times where I've been like, nope, and just dismissed it without even is there something here I can learn? Even if it's hard to hear. I bet you've been in situations like that where maybe at first it's like, ow. But then you actually grew from it.
Oh, absolutely. Like, it's so easy to just get caught up in our own perspective and, miss those little nuggets of truth. And I love how she says, instead of seeing it as a personal attack, we can view it as like a sign of someone caring enough to point out, an area where we can improve.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because it makes you feel like, oh, they actually care.
Yeah.
They're trying to help me.
Exactly.
That's powerful. And it makes me think about another thing that she talks about in this video, which is observing the world around us. She talks about the rain nourishing the plants and encouraging us to see the everyday occurrences as messages from a higher power. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful way to cultivate a sense of awe and gratitude, recognizing that even the seemingly mundane aspects of life can hold profound meaning if we're just paying attention.
Yeah, and like rain. I mean, rain is so important, but I think we often take it for granted, and it's just like, oh, there it is again.
Right.
Have you ever taken the time to just watch the rain?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And just the feeling of wow, this is actually amazing.
And the smell too.
Yes.
Right?
That smell of rain.
It's incredible.
It's almost like a message.
Yeah.
Like she's saying.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's something bigger than us. She also talks about kind of a thought-provoking idea. The concept of using fear as a motivator for positive change.
Yeah.
And she kind of compares it to flight attendants using a lost phone as a way to get people's attention before safety instructions.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it really struck me. That analogy, think about it. Everyone perks up. When a phone is lost?
That's so true. Is it mine?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Oh. And so it's like that Dr. Younis is saying, those reminders of our own mortality can prompt us to reflect on our lives and think about how we can make positive changes.
And that is powerful, but the thought of reflecting on our own mortality is a little bit daunting.
Yeah.
But it also makes sense that it could be helpful for us to really prioritize what matters. It's almost like a wake up call, to live more intentionally.
Yeah.
But isn't there a danger though of becoming preoccupied with it?
And that's something that Dr. Younis acknowledges. She's not advocating for us to dwell in fear.
Right.
But she emphasizes the importance of finding a balance.
Okay.
Between fear and hope.
Gotcha. So it's not about letting it consume us.
Right.
But using it as a catalyst.
Exactly. To make those positive changes, to recognize that our time is precious, and to really think about how we want to spend it.
Right. And she says that that's actually reflected in religious teachings.
Yeah. A
lot.
Mm-hmm.
About finding that balance.
That balance between fear and hope.
Yeah.
And I think it makes a lot of sense, when people become complacent, sometimes they need that reminder, of consequences or whatever. And then other times when you're just fearful, you need that reassurance, that hope,
And, it's like finding that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Where you're motivated, but you're not
right.
Anxious. And
you're not paralyzed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Now, Dr. Younis also makes another key point, which is the importance of living with purpose. And she even asked this really deep question, which is, what's your plan for the grave? Where you're going to reside for, far longer than you are in this world.
Wow.
Yeah. Makes you think, huh?
It really does. It challenges us to look beyond just our immediate day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And consider that, the legacy that we're going to leave behind.
Yeah. And more than like just the legacy, it's like the impact that our choices are making today on our future, both in this life and beyond. So this whole idea of living with purpose, it really kind of ties everything together, doesn't it?
It does.
Reflecting on our mortality, cultivating gratitude for what we have now. It's all kind of like a beautiful, package.
It is.
What do you think is the most impactful takeaway so far for our listeners?
I would have to say, for me, it's the idea that we have a choice in how we respond to criticism.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing it as a threat, embracing it as a chance to learn and grow.
I totally agree. It's so powerful just to remember that even the things that feel negative can be turned into something positive.
Absolutely.
We just have to make that choice.
And it's not just about personal growth. It's like this shift in perspective can impact our relationships and how we see the world around us, too.
That is such a great point. It's like when you approach life with that attitude of like gratitude and willingness to learn, even from criticism, it changes everything.
Yeah.
It's like you put on these new glasses and suddenly everything's brighter.
Exactly. And you know what? Dr. Younis emphasizes it's like a journey.
Right.
It's not about being perfect.
Oh, yeah.
But it's consistently trying to better ourselves.
Right.
So what do you think about that?
I find that so liberating, actually.
Yeah.
Because it takes the pressure off of needing to be perfect.
Yeah.
And it just allows for growth and learning along the way.
Right.
So it's like instead of beating yourself up, you're like, okay, what can I learn from this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Dr. Younis talks about gratitude. Have you ever notice how when you're feeling grateful, it shifts your whole mood?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like even just thinking about the little things, it's like, wow, I'm so lucky.
Right.
And it makes you appreciate what you have so much more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like you're less likely to focus on the negative stuff.
Yeah. And she connects gratitude with being able to receive criticism better too. Yeah.
That's interesting. Because you're coming from a place of, I already have so much.
Yeah.
So someone telling you something you could improve on, you don't take it as personally.
Right. Because you're already like thankful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
We're all just trying to learn and grow.
Right.
And part of that is being open to feedback.
Even when it's not fun.
Even when it's uncomfortable. Yeah.
It reminds me of the point she makes about observing the world around us. It's like approaching life with a childlike wonder.
Yeah.
Remember when we were kids, like everything was so fascinating.
Oh, yeah. Like a little ladybug on a leaf.
All right.
Or the way the sunlight hits the water.
I love that comparison.
It's like reclaiming that,
Yeah.
That sense of awe and curiosity that I feel like a lot of us lose as we get older.
Yes. And she's reminding us that it's still there.
It's still there.
Yeah.
There's still beauty and wisdom all around us.
Yeah. But the question is, how do we actually apply that to our everyday lives?
Right. It's so easy to get caught up in the routine.
Yeah. Like you said, mundane.
Yeah. And I think that's where mindfulness comes in.
Okay.
It's that, a choice to be present, to pay attention to what's happening around us, our thoughts, our feelings, without judgment.
Right.
And Dr. Younis talks about simple practices, just taking a moment to appreciate nature.
Right.
Or thinking about the people in our lives that we're grateful for.
Yeah. And those small things can really build up over time, can't they?
Absolutely. Like building a muscle.
Right.
The more you practice it, the easier it becomes.
Yeah, exactly.
To access that peace and gratitude.
And this kind of ties back into that whole living with purpose thing too, doesn't it?
It does.
When we're grounded in that sense of purpose, it's like we have that compass.
Exactly.
To guide us.
Yeah. But, a lot of people struggle with finding their purpose.
Right.
Like, where do I even begin?
Right.
And I think Dr. Younis's teachings provide a great foundation.
Okay.
She really emphasizes introspection.
Right.
And self-reflection and connecting with something bigger than yourself, like asking those big questions. What are my values?
Right.
What am I passionate about?
Yeah.
What kind of impact do I want to have on the world?
And those are really important questions.
They are.
Yeah. And they can lead to a lot of really cool insights.
They do. It's like you're uncovering, the real you,
what
really matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that self-discovery can be exciting.
Yeah.
but it can also be challenging.
Yeah.
You know, you might have to step outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Maybe try new things.
Right.
Face some fears.
It's like that balance of fear and hope again.
Exactly. It's about having the courage to go on that journey.
Right.
And trusting that you can create a meaningful life.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Now, I want to highlight something really important for our listeners. And we're talking about Dr. Younis, and she's coming from, her perspective rooted in Islamic teachings.
Right.
So, when she talks about the afterlife in Jannah, that's very specific to her faith.
Yeah. So while her teachings can resonate with people from all different backgrounds, it's important to remember that we encourage you to listen with an open mind.
Right.
And take away what feels meaningful to you.
Exactly. And it's a testament to how universal these concepts are.
Yeah.
Gratitude, purpose,
self-reflection.
Yeah, like these are things that everyone can relate to.
Absolutely.
And I think it reminds us that there are many different paths to personal growth and spiritual development.
Yeah.
And what really matters is finding what works for you.
What resonates with you.
Yes. And speaking of that, we have some amazing feedback.
We do.
From our listeners.
Yeah, they're really engaging with Dr. Younis's teachings.
I love it. We love hearing from you guys.
Yeah.
And I think it would be really cool to dive into some of these questions and comments.
Yeah.
Because I think it'll make our discussion even richer,
Well, we got so many great insights from our listeners this week. And one that really stood out to me was from Sarah. And she was saying that she struggles with receiving criticism constructively. And I think we've all been there.
Oh, for sure.
It's just so easy to just get defensive, even when you know that the feedback could be helpful.
Yeah. And I think Sarah's question really gets to the heart of what Dr. Younis is trying to teach us.
Yeah.
Remember that thing about pausing.
Right.
And considering the intention. So instead of immediately, reacting.
Right.
Sarah, maybe take a breath and ask yourself, is this person trying to help me?
Right.
Even if the delivery isn't great.
Yeah.
Can you separate the message from the tone?
It's like choosing to focus on the lesson instead of just getting upset.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, sometimes that takes a little bit of space.
You know.
She also talks about the importance of taking time to process before you respond,
It's like you don't always have to have that knee-jerk reaction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes upon reflection, you realize, maybe this isn't even worth engaging with.
That's so important.
Right.
Yeah. Like, is this something I really need to, take to heart, or can I just let it go?
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, another listener, James, wrote in, and he was asking about that analogy of the flight attendants and the lost phone.
Yeah.
And, he was wondering if using fear as a motivator is kind of manipulative.
Right.
What do you think about that?
It's a great question. And, it is a nuanced issue, but, Dr. Younis addresses this directly.
Okay.
She's not saying that we should use fear to control people or create unnecessary anxiety.
Right.
Right. It's about those gentle reminders.
Okay.
Think about it, James. Have you ever had an experience that made you really aware of your own mortality?
Like you're not going to live forever.
Right. Did it change your perspective at all?
Yeah.
On what really matters?
And it's like suddenly all the small things don't matter as much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's a balance, right?
Right. How do we use that awareness without, letting it become too much?
Yeah. And I think that's where that balancing fear and hope thing comes in again.
Right.
It's not about dwelling in it.
Yeah.
But it's using it as a springboard to take action.
Okay.
To recognize our time is limited and we want to make the most of it.
Live with intention.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important message for everyone. Regardless of, your beliefs.
Your background.
Yeah. It's universal.
Yeah.
Dr. Younis's teachings are so insightful.
They are.
She brings in the spirituality, the personal growth, and practical wisdom all together.
It's amazing.
What's your biggest takeaway from this whole deep dive?
Well, for me, it's the idea that we have a choice, and how we respond to things. We can choose to be reactive or defensive, or we can choose to approach challenges with curiosity.
Yeah.
A willingness to learn.
Right.
And gratitude.
Even when things are tough.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's that opportunity for growth and transformation.
I love that.
So as we wrap up,
Yeah.
we encourage you to keep reflecting on Dr. Younis's teachings.
Yeah.
What resonated with you?
Yeah.
Try applying these insights to your own life.
Yeah.
And remember this journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
It's lifelong.
It is. Well, it's been such a pleasure doing this deep dive with you. And for all of you listening, Thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep diving deep.